school, I feel inspired and I feel happy with my friends, and I don't really want to leave.
I feel like the goals for everyone is to be like the best person you can be, try to get the best grades as possible, have the best behavior you can.
It's just like the environment around us. It makes you a better person.
I think what's special about Bloomfield Hills Schools is a sense of community.
The schools look really friendly, which is pretty easy to feel comfortable.
No matter where you come from, who you are as a person, you just feel included.
At the end of the day, like, it's our home, and I think all the teachers treat the school and the kids in the school like a home and like a family.
They don't just care if you get an A or if you get a B. They actually care about your well-being. They want you to excel as a student, but at the same time, they're not holding your hand.
They want you to understand why you want to do this.
Our classes aren't okay, sit and learn. It's very interactive.
We're in groups and we're doing partner work. The level of care and the level of learning and the level of creativity has been outstanding in ways that I couldn't have even imagined. They really encourage you to step outside your box and do other things that you wouldn't be used to or work with other people that you wouldn't be used to.
Before I went here, I never really thought of being an engineer, but I had the chance to do tech, and I realized that was a lot of fun.
Before I took my intro to agriculture class, I didn't know anything about being outside.
We have a farm for the Bloomfield Hills Schools.
Being outside with animals just opens your mind.
At the Nature Center, we see animals, trees, leaves.
We're focusing on how animals adapt to their environment.
Our district keeps super up to date with technology.
We're working with equipment that they work with in the real world. It's state of the art, it's top notch, and I think that that's helped me become very prepared for my future. We here have a very unique opportunity of being able to harness our individual talents.
I don't think most schools have radio stations, do they?
Nature Center and the Bowers Farm.
Investment Club.
BHS TV News.
Global Champions.
Jazz Band.
Water Sport Alliance.
Black Student Alliance.
Indian Student Alliance.
Gym, music, art, soccer, football, baseball,
Swimming, volleyball, and diving.
Future Farmers of America.
math, mentathlon,
Student Ambassadors Program.
Cross country and track.
Sailing team.
Environmental club.
Theater.
Food club.
Women's Empowerment Club.
The clubs get you with other people that you wouldn't normally hang out with.
These outlets have kind of helped me decide the career path that I want to go into. I do want to be a broadcast journalist.
I want to be a doctor.
I was thinking of becoming an investment banker.
I want to major in animal science and eventually have my own dairy farm.
I really can't decide if I want to be a professional soccer player or a teacher.
Whatever you want to do, you're important. You have so many things to be able to actually become what you want to be and be able to love your job and love your life and still be successful.
Bloomfield Hills Schools have really developed me as a learner and a person.
They push you and push you and push you to be the best possible person.
It's all about building your character to be able to go out in life and do good things.
I love Bloomfield Hills Schools.
I love Bloomfield Hills Schools. It's really fun.
It's a really good learning community, and it's a lot of fun.
All right, so we're back at it. So again, Pat Watson, Superintendent of Schools. So on your journey, you're going to end up at one of our 4 elementary schools, either Conant, Eastover, Lone Pine, or Way. And if you've been following along, hopefully you have with the bond and what's going on with our bond work, we're returning to that K through 5, 6 through 8, and 9 through 12 presentation. So a lot of exciting things as part of the bond. All of our kindergarten classrooms will be brand new in the fall of 2023. We're building brand new kindergarten suites all the way across. So your child will be stepping into new construction for the first time in a long time at our elementary schools. Also, brand new playgrounds. And our playgrounds are going to be ADA accessible as well. As we know, playgrounds are important, but we want to make sure that all of our students have the opportunity to interact and play with their classmates when they go out, as opposed to being isolated or pushed off to the side because it's not accessible to get on the equipment. And so that's going to be an exciting experience for all 4 of our elementary schools and the playground they have. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Todd Bidlack, who's our Assistant Superintendent for our Learning Services team. Todd?
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Earlier you asked me, why is it so quiet in here? And I said, well, because probably most of them they're going to be their oldest. So they don't know yet that you don't actually have to come into the auditorium and be this well behaved. So give it a couple years and then it will feel just natural, like we're in front of any parent group. And it does go by very quick. I can remember thinking it's unbelievable to think that my oldest son was going to graduate in 2022 and thinking how ridiculous that sounds. And then as I was coming in here today, I quickly did the math and I came up with this is a class of 2036. So welcome class of 2036. And then I thought, oh, I shouldn't have done that because the next thing I did is I added that to my own age and thought, oh my goodness, I cannot believe how old I'm going to be when this grade is about ready to graduate. But Mr. Watson is right. It's an extraordinarily exciting and unique time to be entering into our school district. All of the kindergarten classrooms are either under construction right now or slated to have heavy renovation over the summer months, all ready to go by fall. They're going to be the first group in these classrooms. They get to break it in, hopefully not too much, but break it in, but so we can get other classes in there behind them as well. By the time your children are moving into first grade, the rest of the renovations in those elementary schools will have been touched that summer prior. So all of the classrooms will be refreshed at that point. So some of the things that you can expect in those kindergarten classrooms is they're going to have ample space that allows us to foster community. It's going to have updated technology. They're really going to be unbelievable settings for our youngest learners. And it helps support everything that we have here with a robust curriculum where we're really trying to have the balance between a play-based approach, yet making sure that we're hitting those essential components of academics. And our teachers are masterful at putting this together, dovetailing those pieces for us. I just realized I'm the clicker. I was waiting for that to go forward and then realized that's on me. So one of the things that's extraordinarily important in addition to academics is relationships. And we think about this multiple ways. Of course, probably what's on your mind most right now is the relationship for your children with other children in the classroom and also their teacher. But beyond that, we really want to foster relationships between you and the school community, between yourselves and our school principals, between yourselves and our teachers, and even beyond that, thinking academically, but really fostering the relationship between a young child and the love for reading, a love for exploring, being inquisitive, that we're building those relationships as well. So as we dive into this a little bit further, I'll get the help of my esteemed colleague, Mrs. Hempton, where we are really fostering the dispositions which we refer to in the portrait of a learner, with these life skills around being inquisitive, being able to communicate effectively, being able to understand multiple perspectives, that we're bringing all of those features in the way that we approach learning in our classrooms, building community, and even the way that young children come into a classroom and they're sitting on the floor with a teacher, investigating something new, being able to turn and talk with each other, really moving through all of those pieces, paying close attention to developing the disposition for self-regulation, to be able to foster friendships, all of those pieces. And Mr. Watson was pointing out a few additions that we focus on is making sure that we can get through lunch, that we can unpack, we're going to eat everything, we're going to get the straw in the container, all of those pieces. So a lot of careful planning goes into our kindergarten experience, and Mrs. Hempton is going to elaborate a little bit further into the portrait of a learner.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kimberly Hempton. I serve as the Director of Elementary Education here, and we're really excited to see you this evening. Thank you for sharing time with us. As Mr. Bidlack indicated, what is really, really important to us is the intellectual character. Your young people are growing as a part of their time with us, as well as their social character. And so this portrait of a learner and the dispositions therein are really a lifelong skill. We might have these same conversations with our seniors or our post-graduate students, and also be thinking about these same kinds of topics as early as kindergarten. They really do develop over time. So tonight we're gonna walk through a day in the life of a kindergarten student and explore how some of these skills and habits of mind develop, whether we're playing, reading, engaging in mathematics, or social experiences. We know that learning takes many different shapes and that we all develop at really different rates, and nowhere does this become more alive than in kindergarten classrooms. So tonight we're going to talk about our kindergartners in two different pathways. We're going to talk about developmental kindergarten, which is a 2-year kindergarten experience. So a student might start in developmental kindergarten, move to kindergarten, and then first grade, or enter at kindergarten and move on to first grade. So we encourage you, when we speak about kindergarten, we're really thinking about both of these pathways because they're a strong part of the kindergarten teams, both from a staff perspective as well as the social interactions that students have within each of our elementary schools. The most significant difference that you might find is really related to the pacing. Realizing kindergarten over 2 years allows children the time and space for more confidence building academically and socially, that ability to regulate or have longer periods of attention span with tasks that children might find difficult or not their preferred task. I have 3 children of my own, and if it's their choice, they might stay there forever, but if it's something someone else has decided for them, that time span might be a little bit shorter. So thinking about the ways that our students are developing socially, cognitively, and for some, what might be a first formal classroom experience. We'll talk a little bit later on in the evening about what some of those distinguishing characteristics might be if you're still in that decision-making phase around a developmental kindergarten pathway or a kindergarten pathway. But everything you'll hear tonight applies to both of those things. So if you've got a question about that, just know that what is going to be shared with you applies to both of those classrooms here in Bloomfield. And I am going to introduce Mr. Robert Phelps, the principal of Conant Elementary, who's going to share a little bit about what our readers and writers experience across their day.
Good evening. The journey for your children promises to be full of excitement and discovery. Bloomfield Hills Schools really believes in a balanced approach when it comes to literacy instruction. Throughout the time they are in kindergarten, they will engage in 5 major components in their literacy instruction: read-alouds, guided reading and writing, shared reading and writing, independent reading, and phonics and word study. The instructional approach involves a balance between teacher-led reading and writing instruction and independent learning. This workshop approach, coupled with small group work, builds a skilled community of readers and writers in each classroom. When we're talking about the portrait of a learner and literacy instruction, we want students to inquire about the world around them, asking questions and telling stories. Our youngest learners will have many opportunities to engage in respective dialogue, working in reading and writing partnerships, and celebrating literacy milestones. At this time, I'd like to introduce Harleen Singh, the principal at Eastover Elementary.
Good evening. My name is Harleen Singh. I am the proud principal of Eastover Elementary. Like some of my colleagues have shared, I too remember sitting in a meeting similar to this and having many mixed emotions of sending my first off to kindergarten, but we're really excited you guys are here, and we're excited to welcome you guys into our Bloomfield Hills family. So tonight I'm going to be sharing a little bit about math. In Bloomfield Hills, we use a comprehensive math program aligned with the Common Core State Standards called Envision 2.0. As some of you may know, especially those of you who may have older children or older family members, the way we approach math is a little bit different. When we learned, it was a lot about formulas, algorithms, hoping you plugged in those numbers right, getting the right answer, but the way we approach it now is really asking our students to focus on the why and the how. We encourage our students to understand the process of how they're doing their math. It engages students in opportunities to explore real-world applications and see the various cross-curricular connections. Engaging our students in the why allows students to explore and find meaning behind doing math. So our math instruction really focuses on math workshop. And what that means is they're often given a problem-solving question. And so students are grappling with this problem-solving. They do something called solve and share. And this is where the problem is posed and students grapple with finding different ways to solve this real-world problem. Next, they move on to visual learning, where the student watches a video and they pause to talk about what they notice and how they solve the problem. And this is a lot where our math talk comes in. Students talk about what they noticed, how they might solve a problem. We ask students to think about different ways of solving the problems, and we really encourage our students to think about what they notice and how they can approach this problem. We then move on to guided learning, where students try to solve some of the problems with the support of their teachers and their peers. After this, the class breaks into small groups, and this is when students really engage in some hands-on activities. They use manipulatives, hands-on learnings, and engineering opportunities. This encourages our students to show their evidence of learning in different ways. At this time, teachers have an opportunity to rotate and work with small groups. So even starting at the young age of kindergarten, we ask our students to think like mathematicians. We engage our students in math quiz course where they talk about math, explain their thinking, and share different ways of solving problems. Earlier tonight, you heard a little bit about the portrait of the learner, and this is really where the respectful dialogue comes in. It's amazing to watch how kids, even at this young age, really engage in these conversations with one another. So as you can see, our math curriculum really focuses on developing mathematical mindsets, engaging hands-on learning and meaningful activities, encouraging our students to think like mathematicians. Now, I'd like to pass it on to my colleague, Dr. Mary Hilberry, who will talk about our integrated science and social studies curriculum.
Good evening. I know my colleagues have mentioned being in the same shoes, and I can tell you for sure I have been there as well. I am a parent of an eighth grade boy who started in Bloomfield Hills Schools at 10 weeks old, went through the infant, toddler, preschool, elementary, and is now finishing up his middle school years. And I know I'm a little biased, but I can tell you there is nowhere else I would send my child to school. He has had the most caring, supportive, loving team of teachers and administrators working with him that I could have ever hoped for. You're going to come to this school district and you're going to feel like family. Our staff really looks after your kids and loves them with their whole heart. So take it from me, I'm not only a building administrator, but I'm also a mom, and I could not be happier with the experience my child has had in the school district. So, science and social studies. Again, I'm going to talk to you a little bit as an administrator, but also a little bit as a mom. Because watching my child develop his understanding of science and social studies concepts through the amazing opportunities that we offer in this school district are just truly enjoyable and as engaging for me sometimes as I think they have been for him. Particularly in the elementary school, when our students have pretty copious access to two really of our crown jewels of the school district, the Johnson Nature Center and the Bauer School Farm. For those of you who are community members who've never been to either of these locations, I really encourage you to take the opportunity over the next few months to stop and visit. They are open to the public. They offer a lot of great activities. Winter Park, for example, is going on at the farm right now where you could take your kids snow tubing and ice skating, and there's bonfires and hot chocolate, and you can meet your neighbors and friends and have a great time. They have fishing at the Nature Center. They have several miles of hiking trails. They have owls in their natural habitat. There's all kinds of cool things to see at the Nature Center. So how do we integrate that into our science and social studies? It's really kind of a cool experience for our kids when they learn about things like sustainability, or they learn about wants and needs, and they learn about responsible management of public resources such as green space, or planting, thinking about planting of a subdivision or of a neighborhood and how it's important to incorporate nature. Thinking about things like how do we feed our population, our growing population in the world. We can all learn about the life cycle of a plant, but it's very different when you conceptualize how you're taking care of the environment and your civic responsibility and how that all blends together. We also have some amazing field trip experiences for our children, and those aren't one-offs. They don't just run off to the farm or the nature center, see something cool, and come back and go back into the classroom. These are closely articulated units in collaboration with our nature educators at the farm and the nature center, who work with our teachers to develop curriculum that leads into the trip and follows up on the trip. We also have some amazing hands-on experiences that happen right at the building, compliments of the farm, and one unit I'm thinking of that the kids really get excited about is the chicken hatching unit. You will be hearing all about this in first grade when the farm actually delivers the incubators and the eggs, and kids get to see the life cycle of the chickens happening right there in front of them, complete with the hatching and care of these baby chicks in their classrooms. So it's kind of hard to describe the magic that you see when you take your child on these field trips. I really encourage you as parents to participate, not only so that you can see what they're learning and the excitement they bring to understanding these concepts in a very real world context, but it's also a great opportunity for you as parents to get to know each other and meet and connect over these field trip opportunities that your kids have and make those connections as a community, within the community yourself. So, on that note, I'm going to hand off to Michelle Fipke-Lang.
Thank you. Good evening. Yes, I'm Michelle Fipke-Lang, the proud principal at Way Elementary School. This is my first year in Bloomfield Hills, and I am loving every minute of it. While my children didn't go through here, I would definitely send my grandchildren here. That's how much I love Bloomfield. The Bloomfield Hills District strongly believes in educating the whole child. So therefore, we are lucky to offer our students experiences in the unified arts. Students will attend art, physical education, music, and media. I'll tell you a little bit about both of them. In art, our students will have the opportunity to engage in the exploration of materials and build skills in various media and approaches to art making, plus a whole lot more. In physical education, our students will practice locomotive skills and non-locomotive skills. They'll also learn to follow directions and how to be a good sport. And again, a whole bunch more. Visiting the Media Center, one of my favorites, is a wonderful homeschool connection. Our kindergartners will be exposed to many different reading genres. They will be exposed in participating in different literacy activities and also have access to technology. In music, our students will explore different musical instruments and learn proper instrumental techniques while expressively singing and playing. And it's a lot of fun to stop in there and dance along. I am certain that these classes will be some of your children's favorites, and they'll tell you all about it. Although we develop all these dispositions throughout the school day, the Unified Arts strongly supports these two dispositions of our portrait of a learner. In addition to educating the whole child, you will also find that our 4 elementary schools will embrace your children and love them like they are our own. We strive to provide a safe and nurturing environment so all students thrive. You can count on us, and I promise you this, to protect your child at all times and guide them to do their personal best. If any of our students are struggling academically, socially, or emotionally, we do access a multi-tier system of support. This support system, which you will hear referred to as MTSS, is used to meet the individual needs of all of our students. Each month, our teachers focus on a common theme regarding social emotional learning. Students are taught many skills that are embedded throughout the school day. We focus on monthly themes and practice these skills so our students learn how to manage their emotions and also build strong friendships and relationships. Most importantly, please rest assured we are going to love your child and do our very best to keep them safe and loving school. And now, once again, I would like to welcome Kimberly Hempton to the stage. Thank you.
Hopefully you have really felt our excitement and commitment to relevant learning for your child, for thinking about the way we engage in authentic experiences both in and outside of the classroom as you walk through a bit of a day in the life of a kindergarten student. That notion of really experiencing something is what we know as learners brings us all to life as compared to sitting and hearing about it or perhaps even only reading about it. So that notion of the way that our students inquire and remain curious is incredibly important to us here in Bloomfield Hills Schools. On that note, we know that children are naturally born curious, and there's all kinds of things happening in their brains with you already that just doesn't turn on the Tuesday after Labor Day. So as we prepare for kindergarten, we're certainly thinking about a lot of the logistics. We're planning lives forward in terms of what this means to have a new drop-off routine or support a student getting onto the bus. But we're almost 7 months away from the first day of school. So when you think about that in the months of your young child's life, that's nearly 15% of their life. So there's a lot of growing happening between now and that Tuesday after Labor Day. So between now and then, please continue to have really rich conversations with your child. Ask them what they're curious about. Ask them what they notice in the world around them and what they think about that. The way they engage in a conversation with you is one of the richest ways to build their vocabulary, to get them thinking and know that their voice is relevant and really matters in our world. They really are going to be the change makers for our future. So we're also going to be busy at home, perhaps playing games where turn taking is required. That can be really hard at this age. So engaging in games as a family where folks are taking turns and waiting patiently for something to come next. Maybe we're counting some small objects or thinking about how to help in the kitchen with some cooking tasks. Each of these things are going to be ways that your child becomes ready for a formal classroom experience. Any activities that also strengthen those fine motor muscles are critical. Play-Doh, working with buttons or zippers, or thinking about the ways that you might do some extended periods of coloring or drawing out a story, building with Legos. That'll pay off really big in the classroom, particularly with that hand fatigue that young folks experience. I know even as adults in our world of electronics, our thumbs are going real strong, but if we can keep that whole hand movement going as just a regular routine to the day, it's really helpful. You see some other ideas there, and this will be posted on our website. As Dr. Hilberry said, we couldn't welcome you loudly enough to the Johnson Nature Center or our school farm. Those are another excellent ways to jump in and experience the school community while also engaging in that authentic learning. And if all else fails, please just read, because there is not a stronger indicator of early success for your child than reading on their own, walking through, looking at the pictures, reading with you, really knowing that that act of literacy is important in your life and also in their own. Some of the details here you may already be familiar with, but for developmental kindergarten or kindergarten, I would just reiterate that your child would need to be 5 years old by September 1st to enroll in kindergarten in Bloomfield Hills Schools. And if you have a birth date that falls within that September 2nd to December 1st range, you might be thinking about developmental kindergarten, depending on some of the factors that you already know about your child. You know your child best. And while birth date is not a single indicator of developmental kindergarten readiness, you might be thinking about the formal school settings your child has been in up until this point. You might be thinking about a conversation with your child's preschool teacher. You might be thinking about a conversation with your child's pediatrician. But these here are the birth date ranges to be entered into kindergarten within the state of Michigan, right? We have those enrollment guidelines that we follow. Sorry, I'm thinking about a lot of things as I also forget to advance. You'll see up in our atrium more information about our Kids Zone program. Before and after school care is available at each of our elementary sites. We also have a breakfast and lunch program, and Aramark is our service provider for nutrition, so you'll see information. They've got some menus out there and I think some snacks that you might want to grab and take with you tonight. And our transportation department also has information for you. We do provide transportation within a designated zone from your child's school. So those details might also be available to you out there. And then you're going to think about the enrollment process. Registration opened today for the 23-24 school year, so you are able to upload documents and get that process started electronically. You'll first decide which program feels the most appropriate. Do I see them heading to kindergarten next year, or do I see first grade as what's next up? That answer to that question is typically, in your gut response, the best choice. Completing the online enrollment, uploading those documents, and then we would love to welcome you into each of our schools on May 12th with your child to attend kindergarten orientation. Our kindergarten teams are there, huge smiles, eager to meet the next group of students coming into that school setting. You'll have some additional information from your child's principals, and the buses will be there. Kids will have a first ride on a school bus and walk the halls, and it generates a whole lot of excitement about the school year to come. For any families listening or in the audience tonight who may not be in the Bloomfield Hills attendance area as a resident, we do offer a tuition option, and these details are explained here. You can contact student enrollment for any additional questions you might have about how that process fits for you. And at the end of the day, we want to say thank you very much for being your child's first teacher and for an incredible 13 years of partnership that's ahead. We feel very privileged to work with you and are excited for a brand new beginning with the class of 2036. Wow, 2036. In the atrium are many, our PTO groups are there to meet with you, and enrollment is there to meet with you. And if you're not certain which elementary school is yours, please head to the enrollment table and they can direct you to the most appropriate place. Any further questions that you might have specific to the information shared tonight or about Bloomfield in general can be directed to those two methods up there on the screen. So thank you so much for your time this evening. We greatly appreciate you. Be well.